That process can take 6 to 8 weeks, and we've currently got 1,100 people on the wait list for shelter.
I think 1,171.
So almost 1,200 people on the wait list for shelter. Once you're in shelter, what people experience is after 90 days in shelter, they aren't able to attain housing because there isn't any housing available, and then they're forced back onto the street where they have to then get on the wait list again and wait another 4 to 6 or 8 weeks for another 90-day reservation. So entrance to shelter and exits out of shelter are lacking in the city. Drop-in centers. Drop-in centers are low-threshold places where homeless people can go in and take a shower, go to the bathroom, sit down, get a little snack, just be in a safe place and be off the street. Under the Newsom administration, and during the recession, the idea that drop-in services weren't needed, as well as the lack of money in the city, led to the closing of 24-hour drop-in centers. We currently have one at Hospitality House and one which is just sort of a bunch of chairs in a room like this at MSC South. This sort of place where homeless people can go and sort of just, there's an open door and you could use a bathroom or get basic support, is gone. This is especially a problem in the Haight for homeless youth in that neighborhood, where NIMBY attitudes of neighbors have made it impossible for Homeless Youth Alliance to reopen a drop-in center in that neighborhood. And it's not just a problem there, it's a problem across the city. It's a need that we have that we aren't able to meet. We've also decided as a city to fight homelessness by shutting down recycling centers. The idea behind this, and this is something that if you ever read Chuck Nevius's columns in the Chronicle over the years, or listened to certain politicians, you heard that recycling centers are magnets for homeless people. We don't need them anymore because we have the blue bins, so we don't need to actually take our stuff down to recycling centers. There's something wrong with people who want to recycle their cans or their plastic or their whatever for money, and that you should just be putting them in the blue bin and letting Recology get the money back for it or whatever. And so the recycling center in the Haight and the recycling center at Safeway, basically any place to recycle stuff in the Central City area is now gone. I think the only place that's left in San Francisco is out in the Bayview. And this is a problem that the loss of recycling centers, sort of punishing people for doing some sort of social enterprise so that they can make some sort of money, has been something that's been a problem here in San Francisco as well as in other cities. And then there's a lack of a place to move along to. So homeless people are constantly being told to move along by police, by security guards, and so on. The problem is that there's no safe place for them to move along to. There's no place to move along to where someone else isn't going to tell you to move along. And so deploying, security guards or police officers to tell people to move along is really kind of a response to complaint from neighbors that just don't want to see homeless people in front of their business or their home, but don't really care that they don't have another place to go as long as I don't have to see them when I walk out the door to walk my dog or whatever. So that is part of the problem here, is that there's a lack of resources for homeless people, there's a lack of housing, there's a lack of shelter, and nowhere for people to move along to when they're told to move along as a response to homelessness. Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay, know your rights. I don't know my rights, so I can't do this.
I would say subjectively, they can still disrespect your rights, so it doesn't matter. Just kidding. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. I mean, well, so a dispersal order isn't necessarily like the end be all.
All right, some people are given a dispersal order. They have to be, it's to be clear, and it has to have a specific time and date of when they have to disperse. All right, so that's one thing. When people, we have to follow a dispersal order as long as there's a clear time and date of when you have to disperse. So in terms for as the observer, I mean, really, you have the right to observe police business. You have the right to document police. You have the right to document all this activity. You don't have the right to interfere in the process. I'm going to tell you that straight up. We're not in a place, we're not in a stage where we can just intervene in these things. That's not what our goal is. Our goal is here to document and provide support to the people who are being affected by this. Yeah, that's it. That's all your rights you need to know.
Okay, so the cycle of sweeps in San Francisco. So I'm gonna, so I've been doing outreach in the city, street outreach in the city here for over 15 years. And so I've seen the different cycles. And last year, did you guys hear about Super Bowl City and Division Street and the sweeps that were going on? We were very busy last year. Very busy last year. And so what happened? Was that folks were being displaced out of different neighborhoods and being pushed and told, go down to Division Street. This is where you can go. So folks were moving down there. And then there was, in a few block radius, there was, I think it was about 300 tents that were down there. And so people, there were a lot of complaints about this. A lot of this stuff is complaint driven. A lot of it's complaint driven. If there's enough complaints, then the city employees from the SFPD or DPW are told to respond. So they moved everyone down there, and then the mayor called for them to go down and clear Division. And so what they did, there was a limited amount of shelter spaces. They did have Pier 80 for a little bit, but these are a lot of temporary things. So they moved people off of Division Street. A lot of folks moved into more residential areas, because that's just often when there's a sweep, that's what they do, is you know, where there's nowhere else to go. People tend to want to be areas where they can be out of the way and under the radar, and for their own safety, to be, you know, left alone. There were certain areas in the city where, out in China Basin, there used to be this amazing encampment years ago back there, but it's been developed. So folks are being squeezed tighter and tighter and pushed into different areas of the city. So they pushed them out of the more industrial area, and folks went into the Mission district more, into the residential. So complaints to the police skyrocketed. And so then they responded by going in and pushing folks out of that area, and they continue to be doing that. And so then people moved back to the more industrial areas. So this past month, what we've been seeing is now they've been hitting the more industrial areas again with sweeps. So, you know, going out there, move along, but the problem is that there's nowhere to move along to. This continues to be the problem. And the thing with the tents, that's really a newer phenomenon. In the last couple years or so, they've really just popped up. And it's not just here, like the whole West Coast. This is, and it's happened so quickly that the different cities are like, what do we do? You know, and they don't have an answer. So, so a lot of them have been doing sweeps. Why do sweeps happen? Because of complaints. Because, and we hear a lot of things in the media that encampments aren't safe. Well, you know, being forced to live on the street is not safe. And in encampments, there's different communities, so folks will, you know, watch out for each other. And there's, but then they're constantly being hit and dispersed and pushed, like different encampments pushed together, and it's just, and it's tough when you're just this constant crisis mode and constantly being pushed and woken up, like, because sweeps will happen all throughout the night. You know, people, it's a regular thing, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, you need to move along. This happens on a regular basis. And so sleep deprivation is a massive issue here. And then why is it important to be an ally during sweeps? There's a few reasons. One of them, what we've been finding lately, and we've had certain groups coming out with us to respond to sweeps. DSA has been thrown down. They've been awesome. And coming out, and what we're hearing from people is we may not be able to stop the sweeps. And we're not advocating here and telling people to go in and be like, I'm going to be human barricade. Maybe that's down the line or something, but that's not what we're advocating. The big thing we're hearing from people is they're saying, thank you for just coming down. Thank you for caring enough to come out here and to be of support. And so, and I'll be going into it a little bit more, but also when we're out there, the DPW, SFPD, they behave differently. You know, they know that they're being watched, that they're being documented, that, and so we really try not to get into having interactions with them that are negative. It's really not about them. It's about supporting the folks that are out there. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so what is a sweep? There is confusion about this. You will hear from many city officials, we don't do sweeps. I was hearing it many, many times last year, and then I'd walk out and there's a sweep going on. We're like, we know you're doing sweeps, okay? How we identify what a sweep is when people who are forced to live on the street are mandated to move along when there's nowhere to go. The question that is constantly asked when SFPDs come along, they say, well, where can we go? Where can we go? The shelter list is, the shelter's full. There's a wait list. Where can we go? There's no answer for that. There's none. They don't have one because there isn't an answer to that. We were hearing often that, go over to this area, which was a different police district, and then the cops there would be like, we'll go to this area, which is another police district, and there's 3 police districts right there. And so what we call the sidewalk shuffle, because people are just shuffled around, and it's like, it's not my problem anymore, you're over there. And so this is just a constant thing that's happening. And so sweep is can be done by any of these. SFPD, Department of Public Works, CHP, and CalTrans. There's a difference, and even though they kind of blur together and look the same a lot, with CHP, if it's like under the freeway, if it's CHP property, that's where CHP will normally come out, and those are brutal. That is like a whole new ball game. Last year there was one and there's a picture and I'll tell you the story when the picture comes up, but it was absolutely brutal with CHP. The SFPD and DPW currently are, because of we were seeing people's belongings getting thrown away constantly, last year. That's nothing new, honestly. But we did, from a period of time, a 2-month period of time, we pulled the records for how many people's belongings were bag and tagged by DPW and stored like they're supposed to be doing. And we found 4 actual, it's like a homeless bag and tag form. There were 4 of them in a 2-month period. So with doing sweeps every day, something's not adding up here. So some lawyers got on board, and we were, and so things change when the lawyers come to the table. And so currently they're a lot more careful about throwing people's belongings away. You'll see where they'll make sure to get someone's permission. Is this to go in the trash, and they give them permission. A lot of folks, though, it gets to a certain point where it's like they have to move, and they're like, I just got to walk away. I can't do it anymore. So they are technically giving up their belongings, but they don't feel like there's another choice. Oh, this is the one by it's going smoothly on my computer. This is by CHP. This is down on Division and Potrero. And they just came through, and they actually had there were actually DPW workers there, so I think they had subcontracted them. The reason I knew they were DPW workers was because I knew them from so many other sweeps. And that's the reason that I knew it. This was a big. Seems like a lot of people. This was a big one. This is a big sweep. This is the one where. This was a big.
That was the one that was actually going on the afternoon after we met with the mayor's office.
That's
and
when we
they said
met
they
with the
didn't-
mayor's
didn't
office.
Do any sweeps?
Yes,
That's right.
that's when we
Okay,
met,
I
we were sitting there with the
remember.
mayor, and it was strange because it was like more in the afternoon. You can show the other video.
This
And-
is Box City?
No, this was last year. This was over in that was up Potrero and Division, and we had a meeting with the mayor. And he's like, "Oh, we don't do sweeps. They really don't like it when we say the word sweeps." And this is like noon. I go and I say, I'll check in because I've heard there was gonna be sweeps down there, but I thought they'd be over, so I was gonna check in with folks after. I walked in right as it's happening, and can you do the volume at all on that one?
Is, what happens when you intervene?
Notice I didn't intervene.
Yes.
There was the first one. Okay, I'll tell you the story now, and you'll see another picture later.
Is this gentleman intervening?
This gentleman's belongings,
Oh, I
if
see.
you could hear the volume, he's like, I just went to the laundry, can I just get my stuff? And as they're throwing the belongings into the back of the police truck, as it's just going into the trash. And the gentleman was saying, he's like, I just got back from the laundry, I'm just getting, my stuff. The first video, and this is and so it's you don't want to go in and get in the middle of it, but if you go, you document, so if people's belongings are being taken,
Right.
they can file claims.
Sure.
So those are the type of things where documentation is very helpful.
Okay.
So the one before, like there was this one gentleman that I've known for a bit down there, who's a senior, disabled vet. He's fabulous. He's absolutely great, and he's hilarious. And so I heard about the other sweep, so I went down after meeting with the mayor, and he wasn't there. And I heard that he'd gone to the emergency room that morning. And so DPW or CalTrans, but they were subcontracted, go and they're taking his tent, all of his belongings. So he's in the emergency room. All of his belongings, his medication, and his walker. So you may have seen the picture, and I've got it in here. And I told him, I said, no, I said, please at least bag and tag it. I said, I know him. I said, bag and tag it. I said, you're supposed to bag and tag it. And this is all of his belongings. I didn't know where he was. He was in the emergency room. And he talked to the supervisor, and he said, no, toss it. So I got a picture of the walker sitting in the back of the crusher truck. So it was crushed. And so he gets out of the hospital, out of the emergency room. And so this is how we're currently treating our seniors. So yeah.
What street is this on?
This is on Turk. This is right in front of the coalition. Yeah, I was at work and I'm like, hey, there's a sweep going on right out front. So, okay. So that one's good. So but we also want to clarify what is not a sweep. Because people see something like, oh, we get calls a lot. Oh, there's a sweep going on. And so we like to clarify what's not a sweep. A sweep, like when the HOT team, when the city's outreach workers are out there, they're offering services, they're outreach workers, and they rock, and they're amazing. And there's some great outreach workers that have limited resources available to them, so their job is really tough. But these are not what we consider sweeps. So this is very different. This is why there was an encampment resolution yesterday. And that's when the city has a process where they have outreach workers go out and try and connect folks into the navigation center, which currently is 30 days. That's a whole nother talk I can have.
30 days wait?
No, 30 days in the navigation center.
Okay.
And then, which is very limited. And the problem with it is that after the 30 days, when they're back out on the street, there's a focus now with SFPD. Now it's in SFPD's hands, and they're working on re-encampment prevention. Okay? So, yeah. So it's like, well, this encampment was resolved. Okay? So after this 30 days, that is another form of criminalization, because where are people to go? Where are people to go? A 30-day break is not sufficient. And so by now, this focus on the re-encampment is just not okay. But so with outreach workers, leave them be. They're really cool. Talk to them. They're nice, and they can teach you a lot. So even if it's not hot team, sometimes DPW is out there. SFPD, they're not cleaning. They have a different role. But sometimes DPW workers are out there doing routine cleaning, which people want because they don't want the trash that's there. And so last year we had they were doing a big sweep, so we had a lot of folks come down. And some of the folks within the group started targeting DPW workers. And like going, and that they are not our target. And the people that were in the encampments were saying, they're like, that's not cool. We wanted our area clean, and you know, these folks came down and are harassing people, and also they can get the brunt of it after they go home. You know, that's, you know, you're in there. They can get the backlash. So DPW is not a target. It's more about just supporting folks that are out there. Thank you.
Crossing queue is mostly a symbolic issue, so it hasn't gone into effect. It has not been reinforced. Okay, the police code already allows them the authority to seize people's things, or it gives them the authority to remove encampments. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to be going into actually like sweeps watch procedure, like what we're doing, the protocol. So, so graceful. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up a Google Groups so folks can get alerted on there. And so we'll have a thing that you can sign in to get on the Google group. And an alert will go out. You want to switch, Sam? You want to go to the next one? So what to do when you see a sweep. So when this comes up, and this is, there's a couple of different scenarios. Initially, it's because people will think some things are sweeps. You don't really know. Well, sometimes you do when it's like so extreme. But oftentimes it's really important to check in with folks. Don't be going to the cops and being like, oh, and then prop Q, and because that doesn't go over well. You mentioned probably they're not going to be happy with you and not going to be really interactive. But if you assess the situation and then slowly, you know, when you find it kind of an in, to talk to folks and be like, is this a sweep or is this like a routine cleaning? Because they're very different. They can look similar, because even when there's an encampment resolution and they have outreach workers, it still looks horrible and it's still traumatic, but it's different. So we're encouraging people to check in with folks and be like, is this a sweep? And then the next one, to introduce yourself and identify as being part of Sweeps Watch. And we've been on outreach and asking people, because everything we do, we talk to folks and we're like, is this something that people want? And people are really stoked about it. They're just really happy that people would even care enough to come out and be of any help that they can. And ask if it's a sweep or a cleaning. Sometimes in the alerts we'll specify if we need someone to identify if it's a sweep or a cleaning, because we do get a number of calls. It's like, oh, there's a sweep going down right now, and it's like, no, they're just cleaning the street. It's not a sweep. It's very different. So sometimes we'll need to clarify how that is, and then ask how you can help. Sometimes people will. The biggest thing is listening to people, and hearing what's going on and just being present for them. That's like the biggest thing that you can do for a Sweeps Watch. And sometimes if they need help with something, it's a lot of it's common sense. It's just there's someone that's in a really tough situation. Yeah.
What are you looking for when we're there? We think we're seeing something egregious or we don't know what we're seeing. Mm-hmm. What documentation do you want so that it's clear when we come back or that our notes are something that an attorney can look at and say, oh, we need to find that homeless person. We need to find out what happened. We need to follow up. This is not okay. Or just, this is what I saw and you have a list of things so that it's like, okay, we can see that they're doing all of these things over and over again, and some of them we should be challenging them on.
That's a great segue to the next slide.
Really quick, we're asking our friends on the street if it's a
Yes.
sweeper cleaning,
Yes.
not the SFPD or the DPW.
No, yeah, no, not them, because they don't do sweeps.
Right, I mean, you're just gonna tell, yeah.
Yeah,
And
so,
if it was a sweep, they would still hose down the sidewalk and call it that.
yeah, but if you talk to folks that, and they're pretty responsive, like it's a sweep, and if you, or they'll say, no, they're just cleaning up, it's no big deal, because then they'll be able to just go back, like people want it clean, and so, yeah.
I was thinking, kind of answer my question, but it got confusing for me for a while when people were asked to move their stuff, and it was called a cleaning or routine cleanup.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not a sweep in that sense, right? And even if they have to move their stuff off the sidewalk or into another.
No, because it's not, like there's certain areas where they go through, once or twice a week where it's routine, where they it's different, like Cesar Chavez is a little different. They're routine cleaning, now what they're doing is they're putting up barricades everywhere. So invest in barricades because they're just like going off. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
One more quick question. For those that are encampment residents, is that the same terminology and lingo that they use as like sweeping and cleaning?
Yeah. Yep. So, listen. It is a very, it's a very traumatic thing. There's so many times that I've been there, and just someone's just in tears, and it's and just being present. Sometimes with moving some belongings, helping folks move. You want to be careful, just basic safety stuff. You want to, safety first. And then ask how you can help. And then if they're okay with it, with documenting, and I just tell people, I say, listen, I said, and I also encourage folks, I said, take pictures of your belongings, because if your belongings are taken, then we have proof that we can give to our lawyers. And when we're doing a claim, we have proof. I said, and then I say, would you like for me to take, a picture of your belongings so that if that happens, and most of the time people are like, yeah, totally. So it's, you just kind of got to gauge it, but most people are very responsive with that. And if you explain why, because, you don't want to be just invading someone's space and be like, because they get plenty of that anyways, where, people will be driving through and acting all stupid, taking pictures, like, it's just disrespectful, and it's pretty basic how. Documentation, so if they feel comfortable with documenting it, really the big thing is to be communicating with people. For bigger sweeps, more than likely, there'll be someone from the coalition down there that will kind of take the lead, because we've been through many, many, many of these. And so I kind of explain this. If there's something and you're seeing and it doesn't look right with someone's belongings, where it doesn't look like trash, record it. That it doesn't hurt. If you keep your distance and you're not, getting up in their face, you can record it, and then you can send it to us, and we'll show in the next slides here